Warning. If you're watching this alone at night, be ready, because what happened in the cursed villages of Bengal will haunt you forever.
সব লুট করে নিয়ে চলে যায়।
Welcome to Explain Verse BD. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most amazing stories of the world's greatest movies in simple and enjoyable Bengali narration. I am Explain Verse BD, and today's video is truly special because we are diving into a thrilling, blood-chilling action thriller. The movie's name, Raghu Dakat 2025. In this movie, you will witness a mysterious, fearless bandit who prowls in darkness, punishing cruel landlords and traitors. Friendship, love, betrayal, and deep compassion for the oppressed farmers. The horrors of British rule, oppressive landlords, and a revolt driven by indigo cultivation. Every twist, every battle, and every heroic act that will keep your heart racing. If you think you have the courage to watch till the end, don't skip a second of this video. We won't just narrate the story, we'll show you every twist, secret, and pulse-pounding action. So let's begin the mysterious, terrifying, and thrilling story of Raghu Dakat. Long ago, in Bengal, there was a name whispered only in fear. Some called him a savior, others a shadow of death. But who was he really? A bandit or a guardian sent from the goddess herself? Tonight, I'll take you back to the age of indigo, blood, and rebellion. The haunting tale of Raghu Dakat begins. In a crowded village gathering, a holy man named Damru began telling a story born after the Sepoy Rebellion, when Bengal's farmers were forced into the cruel business of indigo farming. At first, indigo was gold. Demand was high, prices were high. But the British rulers and greedy landlords seized land after land, forcing poor peasants into slavery. And with it came torture. The British officer Duncan became a symbol of fear. He dragged men from their homes, whipped them, broke their spirits. Villagers prayed for a savior, someone, anyone, to rise from the shadows. One day Duncan whipped an old farmer until his cries filled the air. Through his pain, the old man whispered, "He is coming." Confused, Duncan demanded, "Who is coming?" A villager trembled as he answered, "We call him the son of Kali. He comes in darkness and leaves behind destruction." Duncan laughed and raised his whip again. But before it could fall, torches flared, swords flashed, and shadows leapt from the dark. A band of dacoits stormed the ground. Their leader struck with fury. No one, not even Duncan, was spared. Terrified, Duncan shouted, "Who are you?" From the shadows, voices rose. "Protector of the poor! Terror of the indigo masters!" And then a cold, commanding voice answered, "My name is Raghu Dakat." Raghu tied Duncan with ropes and handed the whip to the same farmer who had been tortured. "Strike him," Raghu said, his eyes burning in the dark. The farmer whipped Duncan. The officer screamed, "This will not end well for you." But Raghu only replied, "We shall see." With that, he freed the villagers and vanished back into the night. Scene shift. Far away in Rudrapur Palace, King Ehendra Burman seethed in rage. How dare a bandit humiliate Duncan in public? How dare he free the peasants? In blind fury, the king killed Duncan's messengers before they could speak further. Then, turning to his aide, he demanded in a voice that shook the hall, "Tell me, where does this Raghu Dakat hide?" The king's aide, the Nayab, whispered what everyone feared. "He hides in the forests, maybe in the thick trees beyond Rudrapur." King Ehendra Burman's face hardened. "This Raghu Dakat must be finished," he said. "He has become a thorn. Villagers refuse to hand over full indigo and taxes. If this keeps up, The money we owe the British will not be paid. Ahindra worried in a new way. If Raghu is only a thief, then capture him and life goes on. But if he is a revolutionary, if he inspires rebellion, then everything is at risk. The Naib warned, removing Raghu won't be easy. People call him the son of goddess Kali. They fear him and they worship him. Ahindra laughed, harsh and low. A son of Kali? We will see him. No god will save him. Back at the dacoits' hideout, the night turned into celebration. Raghu's band returned triumphant. The bandit mother led songs. Torches painted faces in orange and black. They danced, they drank. For one night, the people they had freed smiled like children. But danger never sleeps. At dawn, a mad wanderer, the one who always brought news from the outside, arrived with a wild face and a whisper. The landlords are selling horses at the market. Raghu listened. A plan took shape. He would go to the market, not to be seen as a thief that day, but to buy a horse. He would buy it in front of the court, in front of Ahindra Burman himself. He would show them he was not afraid. He would show them he could stand toe to toe with power. In the tent, Lady Bandit Gunja slipped close to Raghu and said, almost playfully, "Take something from the market for me, but be careful." Her voice held a softness that did not match the camp's roughness, a softness that hinted at something deeper. The bandit mother warned, stern and kind, "Whatever you take, be careful." Raghu smiled. His voice was steady. "I will be careful," he promised. Across the river, in Calcutta, John Ferguson, the British administrator, sat with the powerful landlords. He made his demand plain. Only Ahindra Burman pays his dues correctly. I must have every drop of indigo and every rupee sent to England. One local king stood up and objected. "You raise taxes so high that our people starve. I will not obey this cruelty." Ferguson's face turned cold with anger. Without even a trial, he struck the king down, a harsh warning for everyone in the room. Then, without hiding his command, he declared, "Collect the exact taxes, take the indigo, bring it to me." Orders like that ripple like poison. Every official, every landlord, every soldier heard it, and the common man would pay the price. That same night, Duncan came to meet John Ferguson. But before Duncan could speak, Ferguson's cold voice cut him. "Your name is being whispered in Calcutta. The upper officers know you've been whipping peasants. Be careful, Duncan. You're bringing heat on all of us." Duncan's face twitched with rage. "I don't care. Raghu Dakat must be finished," he hissed. Ferguson stared at him, then said in a low, measured tone, "Leave Raghu to me. I am handling it." The next day, the mad wanderer came again to Raghu's camp, his eyes wild, his breath short. "I saw it with my own eyes," he whispered. "The farmers are moving all their indigo to Ahindra Burman's warehouse." The news puzzled Raghu. Why stockpile so much indigo in one place? A plan began to form in his mind. That day, Raghu and his men were distributing wealth to the poor, but one farmer refused the gifts. His voice shook as he said, "I don't want this. Save our village instead. The brokers are taking our women." Raghu's eyes turned sharp. "Which village?" he asked. "Mahadevpur," the man whispered. Without another word, Raghu rose. He called for the bandit mother and for Gunja. Together, they set out for Mahadevpur. In Mahadevpur, the brokers fell before Raghu's fury. He bound them, and in front of the villagers, his voice thundered, "No more cruelty, no more abduction. In this Bengal, tyranny ends today." The villagers erupted in chants, their voices echoing into the night. "Victory to Raghu Dakat!"
এদেশের অস্থি মজ্জায় শুধু নীল বইবে।
That same day, a group of farmers walked down a lonely road. A wandering sage stopped them and asked, "How far is Rudrapur?" "Far," the farmers replied, And Holy Father, don't stay on this road for long. It is the dacoits' jungle. The sage raised an eyebrow. You mean Raghu Dakat? The farmer smiled faintly. Raghu, he is a friend of the poor and a terror to the rich. Back in the hideout, Gunja turned to the bandit mother, her eyes troubled. Raghu brought those 2 girls here. What will happen to them? The bandit mother's answer was simple. What else? Raghu will marry them off. At the word marry, Gunja's voice caught. And when will Raghu marry me? The bandit mother looked at her, almost kindly. Does he even know you love him? Have you told him? Gunja lowered her eyes. No. Then don't dream too far ahead, the mother warned. He may not love you back. Gunja's voice became soft and defiant. I was born with the death of love. I won't fear it. I won't think so much. Later, at the Moina Falls, Raghu was bathing, alone. The water ran clear. The forest hushed. Gunja stepped into the clearing. Her voice, low and trembling, echoed against the rocks. This Moina Falls, it's ours, yours, and mine. She hesitated, then asked, Raghu, will you marry me? Back at the camp, the talk of marriage hung in the air. Raghu tilted his head, a faint smile on his lips. Marriage? Why bring it up now? He asked. Gunja stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. I would do anything for you, Raghu. After his bath, Raghu spoke to her softly. In battle, you are my best partner, my best friend. Gunja's eyes sparkled, a soft smile curling her lips. Raghu added with a wink, Today I go to the market. I'll bring something good for you. Her smile widened, sweet and shy. Scene shift, distant village, dark clouds overhead. Meanwhile, Ahendra Barman rode into a nearby village, accompanied by his loyal aide, Bhimraj. They came to terrorize the villagers. First, a child caught their attention. Ahendra struck fear, threatening the young one. The child's mother cried out in despair. Ahendra paused, a shadow of hesitation passing over his face, and let her child go. But Bhimraj had found a traitor. The same man who had informed Raghu about the brokers in Mahadevpur. Before the villagers, Ahendra killed him, a warning to all. This is how Raghu Dakat must be dealt with, he told Bhimraj. Bhimraj hesitated, but we cannot reach his hideout. Ahendra's voice was cold and calm. Even if we cannot be enemies, we can be friends in strategy. At the market, the wandering sage appeared again, nodding to Raghu silently. Raghu arrived shortly after, moving with calm confidence.
বিদ্রোহী হলে বিপদ ডাকাতকে লোকে ভয় পায় বিদ্রোহী
Then he noticed her, Saudamini, the dagger performer. Her eyes met his, and in that instant, Raghu felt a spark, something he had never known. Saudamini's performance was a distraction. Her troupe skillfully stole from the crowd, but her gaze kept returning to Raghu. No one knew what Raghu Dakat looked like. To them, he was only a legend, but Saudamini had found him. Her eyes narrowed on Raghu's money bag. She challenged him without words. Do you have the courage to play with me? Raghu smiled, stepping into position, ready. Saudamini placed a watermelon on his head, locking eyes with him, measuring, calculating. Then she tied her eyes and prepared to strike. Her companions tried to snatch the money bag at the same time. But Raghu was ready. He caught them all, each dagger, each thief, each move. Even as Saudamini struck, he intercepted her, his movements precise, effortless. With no other choice, Saudamini and her crew fled the market, leaving behind a trail of whispers and a new fascination growing between the dacoit and the dagger-wielding girl. The market erupted. Guards closed in and tried to trap the thieves. Raghu moved like a shadow. He struck hard. The guards fell. When Ahendra's men arrived, he fought them too. He would not let the weak be taken. As the fighting ended, Raghu ordered calmly, "Mount the horses.
we go." They rode fast through narrow lanes and past stunned crowds. By nightfall, they were back at the hideout, torches cutting the darkness. Gunja ran to him the moment Raghu returned. "Did you bring anything for me?" she asked, smiling. Raghu looked away and pointed to Saudamini. Gunja's smile froze. A bitter heat rose in her chest. A simple, silent jealousy. The bandit mother stepped forward, calm and commanding. "Why have you brought this stranger here?" she asked Saudamini. Saudamini did not bow. She pulled out her dagger and said, cool and bright, "People call you gods, but you do not always do right. Why bring me here? Why call me thief?" Saudamini's voice trembled only when she spoke of home. "Bhimraj burned our houses. He killed my father and mother. My brother is gone. I learned to perform with the dagger. I learned to steal, to feed the family I had left." The camp fell silent. One by one they began to understand. The bandit mother lowered her hand and said, "You will not be harmed here. You will be safe." The men cheered at the goods Raghu had brought. Gunja's face tightened with jealousy. The bandit mother led Saudamini toward the temple, saying, "From now on, you belong to this camp." Gunja watched, eyes narrow, voice low. "I will watch her," she told the others. "If she tries anything, I will make sure the truth shows itself." The next day, Saudamini wandered toward Moina Falls, restless and curious. There, she saw Raghu alone, bathing beneath the waterfall, the water white and silent. She watched him, a legendary shadow, now only a man. The moment held, a quiet that spoke louder than any sword. Saudamini watched Raghu as if the world had narrowed to his shape. Her breath caught. The water made a white wall behind him. Behind her, Gunja moved like a shadow. Without warning, she pressed a cold blade to Saudamini's throat. Her voice was low and sharp. "Don't stare so much. This falls is mine and Raghu's. If I see you here again, I will kill you." That evening, the whole camp sat to eat. Saul, Saudamini, served the food. Raghu asked for some rice. He reached toward her. Gunja's face changed. A flash of rage. She stood up, chest heaving. She walked away without touching her meal. Tears came later when she found a quiet place and wept alone.
The bandit mother watched them both. "She will stay," the mother said gently. "She belongs here now." Gunja whispered, bitter and small, "No one has loved me but you." Far away, Ahendra's men had captured the mad wanderer, the one who ran news in and out of the forests. They tortured him in the courtyard. They wanted blood and spectacle. Word of a public execution spread like a wildfire. It reached Raghu's ears. A memory ripped through him like a voice from a chained past. Little Raghu had once stood beside Fazlu the Mad, listening to his father speak of revolt. For that speech, Ahendra Barman had hanged Raghu's father before the child's eyes. Raghu had tried to save him. He had failed. In the dark that followed, Duncan had tortured Raghu. He had thrown him into indigo vats. The smell of blue remained with him for years. Raghu said, "No one in this Bengal will be hanged again." They brought Fazlu to the scaffold. Ahendra stood tall, cold as iron, Duncan beside him. The judge's words were empty. People cried out, "Will Raghu come to save him?" Fazlu looked toward the horizon, toward the forest. He hoped, foolishly, bravely, that Raghu would come. Ahendra raised his voice and declared, "This is my kingdom. My rule will be obeyed. Traitors will die like this." The executioner pulled the noose tight. The crowd gasped. The rope took Fazlu. Fazlu swung. The crowd fell silent with the sound. A life ended in the name of order. When the noose cut the sky, Raghu's world changed. A quiet promise turned into a hard, bright vow. He would not let this stand. He would not let another father die so that the powerful could wash their hands clean. Raghu smelled the blue of indigo and the iron of ropes. He felt the hunger for justice wake in his chest. Tonight, a man had been lost. Tomorrow, the shadows would move. A noose, a blade, a kingdom of betrayal. Tonight, shadows strike from within. The executioner pulled the rope. Fazlu's breath left him, and then a flash of steel. Raghu leapt onto the platform. He cut the rope and hauled Fazlu upright with one hand. His voice carried over the square like thunder. This land may belong to you, Ahendra, but its blood, its people, belong to Raghu Dakat. Chaos exploded. Soldiers lunged at Raghu. He fought them all, blade and fist, moving like a dark wind. Saudmini and Gunja rushed forward. They seized Ahendra and Duncan, holding them hostage at knife point. Ahendra saw Saudmini and smiled, a strange, knowing smile, as if a hidden plan was unfolding. And then came the twist. A dagger flashed from behind. It struck deep into the bandit mother's back. The attacker was no holy man at all. He tore off his beads and sneered his name, Durlab Roy. Under Bhim Raja's command, the massacre began. One by one, Raghu's people fell. No mercy, not even for the children. The bandit mother, bleeding, asked the false sadhu, "Who are you?" Durlab hissed, "Today you end. All of you end." Her eyes burned with pain and fire. "This is not the end," she said softly. "This is only the beginning." Durlab answered with a final stab, and she died. Raghu dragged Fazlu onto a horse, pushing through the chaos. Ahendra aimed from behind and fired. The bullet struck Fazlu, not Raghu. Still Raghu rode on. From a distance, an arrow flew and hit a cart rigged with explosives. The blast thundered across the plain. When the smoke cleared, Fazlu was dying. Raghu held him as life slipped away. He wept, not like a bandit, but like a son. He came back to the hideout. Only corpses, only ashes. Even his mother lay dead. Gunja knelt by the bandit mother's body, tears running down her face. "There is no one to love me," she whispered. The survivors, few and broken, looked at the bodies of their families. They grieved. They remembered. Raghu knelt beside his mother one last time. Images of her kindness flooded his mind. Childhood nights, her hands on his head, her voice calling him back from rage. In that silence, something hardened inside him. Betrayal had burned everything he loved. Now only vengeance would speak. Raghu's life began with flight. As a child he escaped the English. The bandit mother found him, took him in and raised him as her own. Gunja cried for him once, and Raghu held her, calming her tears with a soft hand. That night they buried their dead. By morning, the band rose and walked toward a new hideout. They traveled many miles. At last they reached a busy market. There, an old farmer stared at Raghu. Recognition softened his face. "You," he whispered, "you are the one I saw long ago. Why are you here?" He warned them sharply. "Ahendra burned 2 villages near here. It is not safe to stay."
Must die.
Gunja's voice trembled. "What do we do now?" she asked Raghu. Raghu's answer was simple and cold. "I do not know much," he said, "but I know this. I will find who killed our people." The farmer led them toward his house. He offered food and shelter without question. They ate in silence and tried to breathe between memories. Across the river, in a cold hall of stone, Ahendra Burman held up a skull like a trophy. He showed it to his naib and smiled with cruel pride. "This was a king," he declared. "He joined with Ferguson to seize the throne. I cut him down. I keep his skull to show the world." The naib quietly asked a sharper question. "You hired killers for Raghu, didn't you? Are they getting the job done?" At that moment, Durlab arrived. Ahendra's face brightened. "You have done well," Ahendra told him. "You will be paid." But instead of paying Durlab, Ahendra handed the money to the naib and kept Durlab waiting. "Where is the head?" Ahendra demanded. "I told you to bring the head." Durlab lied, blaming Ahendra's men. "Your archers fired. You know how it was." Ahendra's voice sharpened. "Bring the head and I will double your pay. Fail and you will die." Durlab bowed and agreed. He swallowed the hard promise like a bitter pill. Back with the farmer, the simple house filled with quiet voices. They finished their meal and the farmer asked where each of them would go next. Saudamini only shook her head. "I do not know," she said, looking down at her hands. Raghu stared into the small fire and thought of the dead. The world felt smaller and meaner at once. He promised himself once more, not in thunder, but with a hard, steady heart, he would follow the trail. He would find those who had sent the dagger and the arrow and the fire, and then he would make them answer. Raghu followed the farmer into the deep woods. The farmer said quietly, "There is a place in the jungle where no one will find you." So they went. They buried their grief under moss and trees and began again. At the new hideout, they rebuilt what was lost. They patched wounds and mended clothes. They taught the young to move like shadows. Raghu trained every day. He sharpened his blade and his promise. Far away, Ahendra's cruelty grew worse. He burned more villages, he took more grain and more girls. Fear spread like smoke. In the camp, the mood sank. Raghu sat alone staring into a small, dying fire. Saudamini came and sat beside him. He told her quietly, "What have these days become? There is barely food in the house." She shook her head and answered with a steady voice, "Do not worry about food. Find and kill the men who murdered your family. Take your revenge. That is what matters." Her words held him. For a moment, light moved across his face. Gunja watched from a distance. Jealousy lived in her silence. The farmer returned with more food. Saudamini smiled and said she would join the festival at the local temple the next day. Gunja's face tightened. She followed Saudamini with her eyes as Saudamini walked by. Gunja could not hide her pain anymore. She called out, "You love Raghu. Would you die for him?" Saudamini met her gaze and said simply, "Yes, that is why I love him." Then she added gently, "You love him too. Your friendship is beautiful. You always rush to protect him. How many do that?" Gunja said nothing. Her heart was heavy. As night fell, they returned to the farmer's house. The farmer walked ahead carrying a lamp. Someone began to follow in the shadows. When the farmer reached his door, he found his family tied and taken. His home was empty of warmth. Raghu's men saw it from the trees. Anger rose like a fire in their chest. Across the river, in a house of stone, Ahendra bathed in indigo, blue staining his skin like guilt. John Ferguson entered, calm and impatient. "Is Raghu dead?" he asked. Ahendra looked up and smiled coldly. "You will know soon," he said. "I only need the taxes and the indigo. Once those are brought to me, everything will fall into place. Stop worrying." But in the jungle, Raghu watched the dark and swore an old steady vow. He would not let another family be taken. He would find the men who reached into homes and stole lives. He would make them answer. The wedding day came. Vikram Rai prepared a bright house, drums and lamps, and a table heavy with food. Guests laughed and danced. Soldiers of Bhimraj stood at every gate, armor glinting, a promise of protection for the wealthy.
এই নীলের জন্য, টাকার জন্য, দেশের মানুষের রক্ত মেখেছিস।
All afternoon, the town breathed easy. People toasted, believing their treasures safe. But at the edge of the trees, Raghu watched. He had read the letter. He had followed the plan in his mind, like a map of revenge. As night fell, Raghu's band moved like wind through leaves. They crept past sentries and slipped through shadows. At a signal, they struck. The guards were awake, but slow to answer. Raghu's men were faster, quieter, shaped by hunger and grief. In minutes, the soldiers were disarmed, surrendering without their swords fully raised. Raghu moved through the house like a dark tide. He did not harm the bride. He did not hurt the guests. He took only what the people of the villages had lost: the silver, the grain, the packed wealth that fed greedy men and left the poor with empty hands. When Vikram saw Raghu in the hall, he rose in terror. "Who dares?" he cried. But Raghu only looked at him, steady and cold. "Take back what you have stolen. Give it to those who starved so your daughter could feast." Vikram stammered, but before he could answer, Bhimraj's men surged forward. A clash broke out. Loud, brief, and sharp, Raghu fought like a man possessed. Each move controlled, each strike measured for purpose, not cruelty. When the night ended, the soldiers lay disarmed and bound. Raghu's men had taken the riches and left no ruin behind. The bride sat safe, the guests stunned but unharmed. The villagers who had watched from the dark returned to their homes, carrying sacks of grain and coins. The stolen things returned at last. Vikram Rai stood in the doorway, humiliated and afraid. He had lost his pride and his treasure in one night. He looked toward Ahendra's palace, knowing this failure would not go unnoticed. Raghu paused at the threshold before leaving. He did not kill, he did not boast, he only said, low and certain, "Tonight the poor will sleep with full bellies. Tell Ahendra that Raghu Dakat still walks this land." Then Raghu vanished into the dark with his band. Not a thief celebrating a haul, but a shadow carrying justice back to the hungry. The night of reckoning had come. Saudamini and her companions moved like shadows through the festival hall. They had already taken care of Bhimraj's men, poisoned the milk, disarmed the guards, left no one alive to alert their master. Every coin and jewel stolen from the poor by the greedy was returned to them. Raghu approached Vikram Rai's sisters and their mother. He asked only for the gold that truly belonged to the family, nothing more. The bride spoke hesitantly. "We did nothing wrong. Please forgive us." Raghu's voice was firm, but gentle. "I do not touch innocent women. You have done nothing wrong. All the crime lies with Vikram Rai. He stole from the poor, took land, forced indigo cultivation, and left people to starve. He explained how he redistributed the wealth to the farmers. Each coin, each bag of grain would save lives. Hearing this, Vikram Rai's wife removed her own gold and handed it to Raghu. Seeing her, others followed. 2 little girls wanted to give their jewels, but Raghu refused. He would not take from children. When someone offered gold for the bride at the wedding, Raghu said softly, "My sisters will not marry with gold. That is my wish." He personally escorted the sisters to safety, ensuring they reached their new homes unharmed. Far away, Ahendra's anger boiled. Bhimraj could not act against Raghu. Fear gripped him. Ahendra roared, promising Bhimraj, "If Raghu's head does not reach me, your head will pay." Back in the village, Raghu continued to distribute wealth among the poor. An old woman, seeing him return, said, "I need nothing. You are enough." The villagers cheered. Their voices rose, filling the night with shouts of victory. "Long live Raghu Dakat!" The next day, Saudamini arrived at a temple to offer prayers. Bhimraj and his soldiers appeared, ready to strike. Saudamini's hands tightened on her weapon, prepared for the fight.
From a distance, Gunja leapt forward, throwing a sword that struck one of Bhimraj's men, dead. Together, Saudamini and Gunja charged, blades flashing. The battle raged swift and deadly. At one moment, Bhimraj struck Saudamini down. She fell, unconscious, but her resolve and Raghu's cause could not be broken. Raghu arrived with his band, moving like shadows through the trees. In the village, Gunja fought fiercely, but Bhimraj was stronger. She could not hold him back alone. He struck Gunja down and carried Saudamini away. When Raghu reached them, he found Gunja injured, bleeding, her eyes full of fire. "They've taken Saudamini to the Indigo fort," she gasped. "You must save her." Raghu clenched his fists. "I will save both of you," he said. But Gunja shook her head weakly. "There is no time," she whispered. Then, in her final breath, she asked, "Did you ever love me, even for a day?" Gunja fell silent. Raghu's heart broke. Tears ran down his face as he held her.
Meanwhile, at the Indigo Fort, Duncan tortured the farmers mercilessly. Their cries echoed through the walls. Raghu's band arrived at last. Kalu Sardar, Raghu's trusted lieutenant, struck down Bhimraj, avenging the death of his son. Raghu turned to Duncan. He fought with the fury of years of loss. With precision and strength, he pushed Duncan into a pool of indigo water. When Duncan struggled to rise, the dye-filled liquid swallowed him completely. He was gone. Breathing heavily, Raghu asked his men, "Where is Shodamini?" One of them replied, "She is not here. Ferguson is preparing to send her to England by ship." Raghu's eyes darkened. "She will return," he whispered. The scene shifted. Shodamini, tied and guarded on Ferguson's ship, struggled as they loaded barrels of indigo. Ferguson's men raised their guns. Raghu's band surged onto the ship, silent and deadly. Ferguson ordered fire, but Raghu's men pressed forward. Raghu himself leapt into the deck, deflecting attacks and breaking through every guard. Ferguson tried a trap, but Raghu escaped it with skill and strength. Finally, Raghu reached Shodamini, cutting her bones and holding her tight. Together, they stood side by side, ready to fight the remaining men, fire in their eyes, vengeance in their hearts. Raghu finally faced Ferguson head-on. The two circled each other, eyes sharp, hearts pounding. Ferguson sneered, "If you strike me down, all of you will die." Raghu's voice was calm yet deadly. "Life and death are in Kali's hands. Today, by my command, you die." With that, Raghu struck. Ferguson fell, lifeless. But before Raghu could breathe, Ohendro Barman attacked from behind, a sword slicing through the air. "I am the only god of Rudrapur," Ohendro roared, launching arrow after arrow, torturing Raghu with every strike. "Today, you all die. You have always been beneath me. You will always remain beneath me." Anger surged through Raghu. Saudamini, seeing this, leapt forward to strike Ohendro. Ohendro taunted, "This Raghu Dakat cannot save anyone. I have killed his father, his mother, Fajlu, Gonja. He can save no one." Raghu's eyes blazed. With a sudden strike, he pierced Ohendro with his sword. Each motion precise, each word fierce. "I am Raghu, son of my father. I am Raghu, son of the bandit mother. I am Raghu, Fajlu's brother. I am Raghu, Gonja's protector. I am Raghu Dakat. Today, your death is mine to deliver." Ohendro fell. Silence descended, broken only by the crackle of flames. The ship, set ablaze, roared with fire and smoke. Raghu grabbed Shodamini, leaping into the dark waters below. The ship exploded behind them, a wall of fire lighting up the night sky, and thus ended the tale of Raghu Dakat, a story of rebellion, revenge, and justice against the cruel British rulers and oppressive landlords. Through this thrilling story, audiences experienced not only the high-octane action, but also the harsh reality of indigo cultivation and the suffering of Bengali farmers under colonial rule. Raghu Dakat's legend remained a perfect blend of entertainment, emotion, and historical resonance. Phew, how did you enjoy this thrilling journey with Raghu Dakat? Did your heart keep racing as you watched Raghu, Gunja, and their fearless band fight against injustice and tyranny? If you loved it, smash that like button. And if you want to stay on this pulse-pounding adventure, subscribe to our channel, Explain Verse BD. Here we bring the most exciting monster, horror, and thriller movie stories in simple and captivating Bengali narration. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Otherwise, Raghu Dakat himself might appear out of the shadows. Remember, those who like and subscribe survive, and those who skip, well, they face even more mystery, suspense, and danger. So which side will you choose? Be brave, hit that like, subscribe, and become part of Raghu Dakat's thrilling, mysterious journey.